All right, we will go ahead and get started this morning. Good morning. It has been 3 weeks since we've had a virtual town hall meeting and we've missed you. For those who may have remembered, we had our virtual summit, so we took 2 weeks off, and then hopefully we all enjoyed a restful Thanksgiving break. So we are back at it and glad to have you with us. My name is Danielle Clore. I'm the CEO of KNN, and with me today is Laura Whitaker, our Associate Director. A missing face on Zoom this morning is our Director of Member Engagement, Renee Gallagher. She's altered her work schedule with KNN, and so she won't be joining us on these town halls, but know that she is still here and available to assist you with your member benefits and questions. But we're going to miss her. So before we get started this morning, a couple things. One, Laura and I were talking, we're in a new era of our virtual town halls. There's snow on the ground. We're wearing turtlenecks. It is cold time. And as I mentioned before we got started to the team behind the scenes, I surely never thought we'd be doing these in December, but yet here we are. And so we're gonna make the best of it. Another thing I want to take a moment to acknowledge, because it seems like it's really hit us from the last town hall until today, is that as COVID rages across the state and nation, many of us who may not have been personally impacted in the early months now find ourselves or our loved ones or people that we care about sick. Some of us have lost people very dear, or those that we love are suffering losses, and COVID-19 has become very personal now for many of us, and likely will in the weeks ahead. So know that your KNN team, and I think it's safe to say everybody on this call and in the nonprofit sector is thinking of folks who need it, and for those of us who pray are praying. And sorry, we wish you comfort in the days ahead. So didn't plan to do that. So this morning, I always get emotional when David Thompson is on, and I can't really blame him, but I think I did that the last time he was on. So sorry, David. This morning, we have David Thompson, Vice President with our partners at the National Council of Nonprofits, and he's going to give us an update that I'm pretty sure changes half hour by half hour, maybe, with regard to what is going on in Washington, D.C. So David, welcome back, and thank you for being with us again this morning.
Thank you for having me back. Thank you, Rebecca, for joining us live, as well as Sonia and Susan. Danielle promised me that I would get to see people in the real world. So please come online. Let's see you. Let's all be nodding and disagreeing.
How many turtlenecks do we have out there in this cold morning? Yeah.
Bethany and Shelley and so forth. Welcome to this live event. I have to jump off pretty quickly. I am looking over here to my screen to see breaking news. Yesterday, I was doing a call talking about the spending bill, and then the headlines were spending bill's off. They've canceled everything. So it changes, and then it was back on track. So it changes every half an hour, sometimes every 15 minutes. But I want to do a couple of quick things. First off, did you notice the email you got from KNN earlier today? It had 3 key points. Key point number 1 is there's this virtual town hall. Please join. Check that. Congratulations. You've all done that. Good job. The second item is that today is a day of action for the issues I'm talking about, the COVID relief, the reason for this call. It went out. There's some sample talking points, sample tweets, all kinds of things. Please do engage and not just do lip service and say, yes, I support it. Contact your man, McConnell, contact all your representatives, anyone and everyone, and contact your board members and ask them to do the same. I'm going to put up a partisan sheet here. Let me see if I'm online. This is the hashtag. I say partisan. I realize that there's a great divide in Kentucky of red and blue. So I made sure that the blue is University of Kentucky blue and the red is the University of Louisville red. I don't know about Western Kentucky. I don't know what their colors are, and I would have, but it started getting kind of silly at that point. So I'm trying to bridge the partisan divide in Kentucky and the Commonwealth by saying, please, relief for charities. Sorry. Is the hashtag, but also emails, also call up your local reporter. How was Giving Tuesday? Giving Tuesday was okay, but we need relief from charities, etc. So please do take advantage. Right now is when they're paying attention, and I'll give you a little more information about the details. The third item on the day, this morning's email was, if you're not a member, join, and please support the work of KNN. Not being asked to say this, but the stronger KNN is, the stronger our national network is. So please do support in financially, volunteer-wise, sharing information, accelerating. Now go back to that relief for charities and get back to that. Okay, the status, where we are right now, there is a COVID cliff looming. By the end of the year, 12 million people will lose unemployment insurance. That's the extra 13 weeks of unemployment insurance. 40 million people will be at risk, probably 5 million most directly of eviction after the end of the year when the eviction moratorium runs out. 21 million students will start seeing student loans due again because the forbearance will have expired. But that's just what you're reading in the newspaper. The coronavirus relief fund expires. That's the $150 billion that was allocated for the state and local governments, specifically for very narrow COVID programs. I don't know, Danielle, you can nod. Has the Commonwealth spent that money, or is there still some left? There's still money left, so the Commonwealth may have to pay back the federal government.
No, I'm sorry, zero left. No money spent.
Well, congratulations. Never mind. Other states haven't, and they're going to have to pay money back to the federal government, which nobody wants to have to do. Unemployment insurance, both for contributing employers and for reimbursing employers, is a big fat mess. A lot of the protections expire. The Commonwealth has borrowed money from the Department of Labor. It has to start paying the money back, and that means that there could be surcharges, extra taxes, things like that. Paid leave and the tax credit that goes with it also expires. That was the first act they passed way back in March. And the employer retention tax credit. Have any of your organizations tapped into the employer retention tax credit? Even if you couldn't get a Paycheck Protection Program loan, if you couldn't, you could still use that, get a $10,000 tax credit for keeping employees on the payroll. That expires. If you haven't used it, we're trying to restore it. So there's a lot of bad happening in the next, do the quick math, 28 days. Or, oh Lordy, it's bad, to quote my friend Danielle. Now, that was what we all knew. Something remarkable has happened. This week, Congress is doing the thinkable. It's 2020, unthinkable is the norm. They're doing the thinkable. They're getting busy on taking care, addressing this. Every single politician now is saying, we need to fix this problem. We need to do something. We're not going to leave town until we provide relief. That's a change. Sadly, that's a change. From McConnell on down to incoming freshmen are all saying that. So that's the good news. Here's what's happened this week. On Monday, Speaker Pelosi and Senate Minority Leader Schumer sent a private letter, secret letter to your man McConnell, offering, how about that's a personal statement, Rebecca, I'm sure, to the Kentucky senior senator, saying, okay, here's our deal, 1.3 trillion, undercoating included, free car washes, the making the deal. That was not publicized. That's just the rumor that's come out. Remember, they were at 3 trillion, then they were at 2.2. So 1.3 trillion, private letter to McConnell, not politicizing the offer. Then on Tuesday, a group of 6 bipartisan senators plus 50 House members came out with a proposal, a framework, emergency framework. And then right after that, not yet, Laurel, right after that, Senator McConnell put out a fattened skinny bill. He's had 3 skinny bills, 2 skinny bills before. He fattened it up a little bit, probably 50 billion more, almost as a counter to the bipartisan. Some would say he put that out to show that he's the power base in the Senate. There's not these whippersnapper moderates, but he put out his new proposal, which added a few things. Then on Wednesday, Monday, Tuesday, now Wednesday, Speaker Pelosi and Leader Schumer said, tell you what, let's use that bipartisan bill as the base and then we'll negotiate from there. No word yet from Senator McConnell, but this is Thursday. Something good could happen today. We seem to be making progress. Laura, would you please put that screen up, that slide up? This is something quick we put together last night. The House passed HEROES bill is the largest one. That's a $2.2 trillion bill. The Senate GOP is the one I'm talking about as the McConnell fattened up skinny bill. And then the bipartisan bill. The bipartisan bill would cost $908 billion. The Senate GOP, last I saw, was $550 billion. And then the HEROES is 2.2 trillion. What you see there is the first two items are the biggest, nastiest battles that we have, partisan battles. Democrats want state and local aid. Republicans want limited liability protections. You'll see the House HEROES bill, money for the states, no liability protection. GOP, no money for the states, and yes, liability protections. The bipartisan bill that the Speaker and Majority Leader are pushing, or saying let's use that as the base, has some money for 4 months for the states and a moratorium for 4 months. So they're flat on directly addressing it. And it's 3 Republicans, 3 Democrats, and there are a few more that are signing on. So that's a good thing. Unemployment, I won't go into detail. The unemployment reimbursers is a key issue for the nonprofit community. The House bill extends the 50% relief that we've been receiving, but doesn't increase it. And the Senate bill doesn't say anything about it. And the bipartisan bill, we don't know yet. But that bill's still being written. So we are advocating and agitating as much as possible. Above the line deduction. Remember in this CARES Act, we have a $300 above the line or universal deduction. That would be increased to $600 for individuals and $1,200 for couples under the McConnell bill. So that's a more generous proposal. We don't know if it's in the bipartisan bill. We suspect not, so we're working to get that included. Paycheck Protection Program extension, the House bill's good. The Senate bill kind of smites nonprofits, and we don't know what the bipartisan bill is going to be. ERTC, I mentioned the Employee Retention Tax Credit. Yes, the House extends it. The other two don't. That's a problem because larger nonprofits have not gotten Paycheck Protection Program loans because of the 500 employee cap, which is a harder cap for nonprofits than for for-profits. So they've been able to turn to that ERTC. There's no extension or improvement in these other bills, so we're working on that. And as for $1,200 checks, that's not in there. The House, so there we go. That's where we stand. And it looks like I'm almost out of time, but let me explain where we are elsewhere. Is something going to move? The presumption, and now that for the very first time Congress is starting to act like normal Congress, this might follow through. Presumption is Congress will agree to a spending bill. Thank you, Laura. We agree to a spending bill of $1.4 trillion. They had agreed on how much they were going to spend, then they disagreed on how they're going to do it, and they seem to be back on track. The deadline for doing that is December 11th. That's when the current temporary stopgap measure called a continuing resolution, that's when it expires. Everyone has presumed from the very beginning that that will be extended to December 18th because just like every high school student, you want an extension, and if you can give yourself an extension, you will. We expect they'll give themselves an extension and then staple onto the back of the omnibus spending bill as much COVID relief as they can agree to. So any of those items on that chart may or may not be included. They could kick the can down the road. Senator McConnell has said that he's willing to leave several of these items up to President-elect Biden once he becomes president, knowing full well that he's the one that's going to block the stuff he doesn't like. So we expect something to be passed by December 11th, by 18th, or at some point. We expect some provisions to be attached that everyone can agree to, maybe a negotiated deal. And we expect to not finish come that date, that there will still be more of these items that we will all be able to improve on come January. So it never ends. But other than that, things are quiet.
David, in my action alert today, obviously today is an important day of action, but honestly, we should be keeping it up until we see passage. So it could be a hectic time right up until the 18th, until we have everything we want and need for the sector in this legislation, where in whatever form or shape it takes, right? So every day, spending 5 minutes can be helpful.
Every day, the Danielle put out the message that had several sample tweets. We encourage you to adapt. It may be you're a larger nonprofit that wants to focus on the midsize. Please go for it. It may be you are also you're a reimbursing employer. Please do that. And or it's an and. We're not doing or. Pick any and all and hit them as fast and as often as you can. Repetition really helps here.
And I can't stress enough, I've seen some tweets this morning and love it, but if you're not tagging our congressional delegation in it, it's hard for them to know that we're as fired up as we are. So those tags are really important. The hashtag's great, but we definitely need to tag them so that they're seeing, wow, we're really hearing from nonprofit folks on these issues, even though it feels like we've been doing it really since April, since July, since August. This is really a very important window.
So you tag them, and then what's the hashtag you use? Your choice.
There you go. Really.
Color of your choice.
That's right. That's right. All right. Well, David, I know you've got to get on to New Jersey, right?
Great to see to New Jersey. I'm off to New Jersey, sitting right here. Great to see some of you. Have a great day, and please
Thank you. Thanks for being with us, David.
Thank you. Bye.
All right, so we'll back up a little bit before we wrap this morning, because we probably won't need the full hour. First, do any folks have questions? What I'm going to pull up are what those specific asks are again. So when you're doing your messaging, if you need to tweak those, happy to cover those with you. But anybody have any questions before we do that? And I should have asked this before David left, because it may be that I can't answer, but we could try. Any questions? Okay. I'm curious for folks, and you could raise your hand or put it in the chat. Has anyone gotten, if you're self-reimbursing, your invoices for your unemployment claims that I think hit mailboxes in the last couple of weeks? I'm getting emails. We had a member who got their $80,000 invoice this morning. We know another member has a $1.2 million invoice, and those are, at 50%, so double those. But anybody gotten any of those? And we may not have any self-insured folks on this call. Okay. All right. So I'm going to attempt to put our blast up that we sent. I think Laura has put this in the chat. Laura, thumbs up on that. Okay. All right. So I'm going to scroll down here and show you. So our asks are more PPP funding. So a second round of loans, and modifying the eligibility. So when David talked about what is included, it is a second round, but the problems for nonprofits is it limits the size of the organization to 300 employees. So again, we're really knocking out a lot of organizations, especially folks who have a lot of part-time employees, from accessing those loans. So that's one concern. The other, the way this has been written in various bills has been differing percentages of loss of revenue for certain periods. Well, nonprofits aren't like for-profits, so loss of revenue is not being looked at in the same way. And so these are just kind of consistent issues we see with various legislation on the state and federal level of folks who are drafting don't always understand how nonprofits are different. So those are some of the issues that we're going to be working on there. So, but again, just this general language, if you're communicating, if more PPP funding would be helpful for you, hammer in on that piece of it when you're sending your email to your delegate members. If you're a large nonprofit and you've not had access to PPP, I would share that as well. We have 400 employees. We need to be covered. Next is the charitable giving incentive, and we're going to be sending out next week. There's a great opportunity for you to communicate to donors to take advantage of some of the tax breaks, but certainly we need more to encourage more giving, especially on the heels of Giving Tuesday. So we're going to be working on that and urge you, if those charitable dollars, if that piece would be helpful for you, to include that. Again, the unemployment insurance issue. We've got the challenge for those who are paying into the state trust fund. Whether you laid someone off or not, those costs are going to increase. Maybe not in 2021, but definitely in 2022. Kentucky has a loan, it has to be paid back. And so there will be, if anybody remembers the recession, surcharges and things that help us pay that back as a state. If you are self-insured or reimbursing, again, you've got the issue of now you're not getting all of those costs covered, only 50%, and starting January 1, 100% of those costs would now be required of you when you get those invoices. And so kind of the distinction there is folks who are in the state trust fund are not going to see increased charges and have not had to pay for any claims right now. The issue facing self-insured nonprofits is they have invoices, half of which are due right now, and starting in January, 100% will be due. So that is a really significant concern. Even if your organization is not self-insured or reimbursing, the ripple effect of closures is really going to be significant. The other thing that really impacts nonprofits that's expiring is for small organizations who didn't have to address unemployment insurance at all because they didn't have the cutoff is if you have 4 or more employees, full-time or part-time, for 20 or more consecutive weeks, you have to do something about unemployment insurance, whether you go through the state or you self-insure. So for an organization that had 3 staff members and had to lay someone off, that person has been covered. That expires at the end of the year as well. So it's not that it's going to cost the organization necessarily, but it is going to be important for those folks who are receiving benefits. They would no longer receive them. They're just quite simply out of luck. So that is a significant concern, as well as folks who are independent contractors. So unemployment insurance is a big concern. And then finally, or 2 final items that David mentioned that were the biggest issues in getting this thing negotiated is the state and local government assistance. And we know that's going to be absolutely critical to Kentucky, as well as many of our communities across the state. If you are locally watching your city council or listening to your county judge executive, you're hearing the crisis. KNN is doing a lot of work in Lexington, in particular with a new Lexington nonprofit coalition. And it's scary. You know, they're planning for significant budget cuts and no expenditures, quite frankly, when folks need nonprofits and support the most. So we're very concerned about funding support for state and local governments. And then the liability relief. So nonprofits kind of walk a fine line here. We want to be sure we're covered and protected with regard to liability, but we also care about the people that we serve, and we want to be sure they're treated fairly in any liability relief legislation for corporations or nonprofits. So we will continue to watch that. So again, this link here is this nonprofit community letter. If you're emailing, I encourage you to include that because it outlines each of these asks, and you know, it will help reinforce what we want to see in the legislation. And again, a reminder, this link here will take you to sample language. You can cut and paste and then add your own paragraph. And then this link here takes you to the email addresses for our senators and then finding your representative. So if you can do that today, and quite frankly, and if you tweet, great, you can retweet us. I've already tweeted several series of things this morning to try to make it easy for folks. So we're going to keep doing that. And honestly, it's frustrating. You know, it's like, okay, I've already done that. We're going to have to keep it up. We know that legislators, whether they be at the federal or state level, do not act until they hear from folks. And so they really need to hear from you. And so if you can put that personal spin on it, especially with your member of Congress, whether that's Andy Barr, Hal Rogers, John Yarmouth, because this is a bipartisan issue. We don't have support for all of these issues from either side, and they're bipartisan solutions. So we've got some really important work to do. But share, you know, we've had to lay off X people, or that PPP loan was a lifeline for us. And if we don't get more, we're probably looking at closing our doors in February or laying off X number of Kentuckians who are really, you know, it's a self-defeating prophecy of we're all of a sudden losing that payroll tax revenue, which our cities and counties need to function. So I urge you to share and put a personal spin on that. But again, Laura, if you'll put this email link in there again, this email that we sent out this morning has all the details that you need to communicate and kind of keep things moving in the days ahead. We are going to do our best not to overload your email with action alerts, but know that if you hear from me, it's critical that we do something today. So if you'll be paying attention to those, we'll try to get that information out as we can. So any questions? And then I just have a couple of quick announcements, and y'all get to go early. Any questions? The other thing I will say, if you all are hearing anything back, please share that with us. If you get anything more than a pat on the head, thanks so much. It's good to hear from our constituents. If you actually get some meat and some things that could be helpful, please share that with us, because it'll help inform our strategy a bit, because we'd love to hear that. And again, if you have or know of an organization who's gotten those unemployment bills, I would mention every bit of that in your communication, because those are really big numbers for a lot of folks. Okay, all right, so a couple of quick announcements. We've done a couple of surveys. I guess we did one right in March and April, then we did another in August. So we have another to kind of wrap out the year. That'll be coming out hopefully tomorrow. And it's going to be a quick turnaround. We're trying to make it as simple as possible, but know how critical these surveys are. We use them for this purpose exactly. We will send the data to our federal delegation and talk to them about how critical it is. We use it at the state level. In a couple of weeks, we're going to be talking about Kentucky General Assembly action, because that kicks off in January if we didn't have enough going on. So we've got a lot of work to do at the state level, and we haven't even talked to you all about that. And then the other is the media. It's a really important time as we approach year end to engage our volunteers and our board members and community members in this advocacy. And this data helps us do that, helps us tell the story to the media. So then hopefully they'll contact you. We've had some great examples of stories done in communities all over Kentucky. So be on the lookout for that survey, and please do take it as soon as possible. We have some events coming up, and so you can check out our event calendar. One is a Member Connect call that Laura will do on December 15th. She's going to be sharing the resources that we have to really help you with your planning in 2021. We've got scenario modeling toolkits, our Survive and Thrive toolkit. So she'll be covering how to use some of those. If y'all are like me, I'm working on my budget this week in preparation for a board meeting on the 14th, and it is just a complete farce. I mean, there are so many unknowns in that budget. Thankfully, Shelly's great. Yeah, we're just reaching for the stars here. I'm going to do my best to do some projections, but it is without federal relief, they may all be pie in the sky. So we have some really great tools that we urge you to check out, and Laura will be covering those with you on the 15th. And then, as we mentioned, membership. And I urge you, if you are a member, or if you've thought about becoming a member and you're concerned about your dues, we've had 3 emails in the last 24 hours. I want to continue my membership, or I want to join, and I can't pay the full amount. And quite frankly, those of y'all who know, our dues are based on your operating budget. Well, just like we just talked about, if you don't know what your operating budget is going to be, we are happy to work with you on that. We understand that completely. And so just connect with Renee at ky9nonprofits.org or Laura at ky9nonprofits.org. And our general email delivery is email us at ky9nonprofits.org. And all 3 of us monitor that. So we'll get back with you as soon as we can. But we appreciate your membership. So one, we can keep this work moving. And again, we've got a lot of federal work to do when they convene in Congress in January. We're going to have a lot of work to do with the General Assembly. We've got a lot of work to do. And so we are geared up for it at KNN and appreciate having you on our team. If you are from Lexington, I think I mentioned we have a new nonprofit, Lexington Nonprofit Coalition, that is doing a lot of work around advocacy at the local level. And then KNN will look at how we can support other local efforts. So if you are running into local issues, I'm not promising, Laura's probably panicking right now, that we can help you to the extent that we've done in Lexington, because it's quite frankly been overwhelming. But we're eager to try to figure out how we can, share some of the similar tools and strategies to help organizations across Kentucky that we know are having local funding crises that impact your nonprofits, just like these federal and state issues do. So please reach out with us about that. So we will see you back here. We're back on schedule, at least for 3 weeks. We got 2 more. We've got the 10th and then the 17th of December, and then we'll take a break for the rest of the year. Hopefully, fingers crossed, because Congress will take a break, so we'll have one. So we'll keep you posted on what our content will be, but I do anticipate, hopefully, that one of our future meetings will be around the Kentucky General Assembly and a preview there. We're working on that today to try to finalize that. But know that if we've got more news to share from Washington, that'll be on the agenda next week. But we look forward to seeing you back. And a shout out to our folks who've made, again, the fact that we're still doing these in December is baffling to me. But we appreciate WellCare, the Greater Clark Foundation, Dean Dorton, Delta Dental, Traditional Bank, LG&E and KU, Manley Burke, and AT&T, who've really helped make all of this work possible, again, along with many of you. So everybody have a good day. Stay warm. For goodness sakes, let's all try to stay healthy and keep us posted, and we'll keep the energy up to get Congress to do what we know they need to do to meet the needs of nonprofits and our communities, more importantly, the people that we serve. So, all right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. Appreciate y'all. Bye.